Hello and welcome to this tutorial series on 3DS Max. We're going to be learning how to navigate it, we're going to be learning how to create objects and move them and rotate them and scale them, and hopefully create some very detailed models. To start off with, I'm going to talk about the viewports. These are these four windows you see here. Now by default there are four even ones, but I have the personal preference of wanting to have one large view on one side and three small ones on the other. To do this, I would go down to the Create a New Viewpoint tab, go into it, and I now have a new menu, and I select whichever one I feel is my personal preference, or your personal preference when you're choosing. This is how I like to look at 3ds Max. It's got the wireframe views, and it has the main scene view. Once you've got your viewport all sorted, you want to be able to start making objects. So the ones we're going to learn today are the standard primitives, which are under Create, Geometry. You make sure this tab says Standard Primitives, and you have these two tabs here which have lots of buttons, which have stuff like a box, cones, spheres, geospheres, cylinders, tubes, toruses, which are basically a curved tube, pyramids, teapots, I can't believe that's in there, and planes, which is a flat surface. These are the standard primitives in 3ds Max, and they are very simple to create. All you have to do is literally select one, left click, drag it out, then drag it up. When you're in 3ds Max, you're not only going to be looking at this from this above facing view, you're going to be able to look around your scene. To do this, you're going to have to use navigations. Now, in 3ds Max, that's very simple. You hold down middle click to pan. This pans around the scene, so you can get off to this side and this side and go down, and this allows you to navigate it. You hold down Alt and middle click to rotate around the scene, and you can go and have a look at the object in different views. Another thing when you're navigating, you're going to want to be able to zoom in and zoom out on the object. This can be done by simply rotating the mouse wheel inwards and outwards. And then you're able to pan around and rotate around the object without moving it, and zoom in and out to see details which you might not see in other views. Another thing you'll see is this wire box on top of the object. This is just the boundaries of where the object is in space. Now these can be slightly distracting sometimes when you're editing it, so to turn it off the hotkey is J, and that turns the hovering edges off of this box, or off of any shape. And to turn it back on, you just simply hit J, and that will do it for all the objects at the same time. So I hit J off, and now none of them will show, and if I hit J back on, it will show on both of them. Another way you can navigate around your viewport is by using the cube in the top corner. This allows you to select which side you're going to look at this object from. So you can click it and go into top facing if you want to, and along with that you can also rotate around your scene with this by holding on what looks like a navigational compass, which it has north, south, east and west, and you're able to see the object from any angle. But then you can also look at it from the underneath facing views by clicking on the sides there. And the other way you do this is if you go into views, you go into select active viewport and you hit front, and it'll change it to front facing, but this also makes it go into a static facing view, and you have to go back out, and it also changes its type from perspective to orographic, and just switch that back. Now we know how to create a few objects, we want to be able to move them around in the scene. So what you're going to do is, first off, let's create a cylinder, and this is its location. Along the bottom here you'll see its X, Y and Z location. This is the point where the pivot is. This is this small icon in the middle here. That is where the object is centered to, and the XYZ is just the location of its space, so along its X-axis, Y-axis and its Z-axis. In order to move it, you're going to want to use the tools along the top, which are Select and Move, Select and Rotate, and Select and Uniform Scale. Each of these do a different thing, but they all seem easy enough to understand. So Select and Move, literally, you grab one of the sides and it highlights, and you drag it to wherever you want. You can also combine them by selecting in the middle of them, and you can combine them along the two axes which you selected. Now we've already done the translation for moving. Now, I'm sure that you want to rotate the object as well. Now, the next one you're going to learn is the rotate tool, which you can either click on here, or its hotkey is E on the keyboard. I also forgot to mention in the last video that the hotkey for moving is W. So it's W to move and E to rotate. And now you have a different kind of pivot, so it's more of a spherical pivot. And you can highlight on it like you can in moving, and it's the same principle where you just drag it and it will move to wherever you want it to move, or rotate to wherever you want it to move. So you can edit along any of its axes. You can even click in the middle and you can just have freeform control of it. The final form of translation is the scaling tool, which its hotkeys are. And now you have a triangular viewport of the pivot. This means that you can change the size of the object. So if you click along one side, you'll make it longer or shorter on the x-axis. You'll make it longer or shorter on the y, or the longer or shorter on the z. You can also, like all the others, combine them. Or you can, for this one in the middle, you can do a uniform scale where it will shrink it down completely.